Hey, and welcome to SatHERday's with Shalimar J. I am your host, Shalimar Johnson, and we have with us an amazing woman of God, an entrepreneur, a mother, a wife. Her name is Reva Hart, and I am excited to hear about her story and her journey, and for her to share with us all the things that she's able to share that God has done for her. So, without me talking any more about my excitement, I would like to introduce to you guys Reva Hart. Hey, girl,
Hey, girl. Thank you
how are
so
you?
much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being able to talk to us on today. Like I said, I am excited, and that's the God's honest truth. I'm excited. So if you can, let's just get started. Talk to us about who Reva is. Tell us the Reva story as you feel led to open up and bring us in.
Oh, wow. Shaw, you just ready to just dive right in there.
Uh-huh.
Oh, man. Who is Reva? I am, like you said, I am a mother. I'm a podcaster. I have a podcast called Girlfriend Let's Talk Podcast. I'm also an advocate. I am an advocate for the wounded woman. I do a lot of my work in the arena of domestic violence. Um, I work with adults that have survived living in a home of domestic violence, which we call that childhood domestic violence. And I still work outside the home as I am building my business. And in that arena, I am a director of operations for a clinical laboratory. Um, I just finished celebrating my 26th year wedding anniversary literally this past weekend.
Girl, that's almost 3 decades.
Girl, I tell
Oh,
you,
congratulations.
that's a whole story in itself.
Ooh,
To
baby.
God be the glory.
Yes.
To God be the glory. I wouldn't change it for the world, though. A good marriage is a marriage that's been put under the fire, and
Mm.
I appreciate all the valleys and the highs and the lows that came with it, or I would not be who I am today. So,
And
um,
marriage is also a reflection of our relationship with God.
mm,
How much we'll be willing to stick it out, you know, and
yes.
stay with Him. It is indeed. But go ahead, it's not my time, it's yours.
No, I mean, look, we could take this any way you would like to. I'm gonna follow your lead, but marriage most definitely is not only a reflection of your relationship with the Lord, but it also reveals who you are. So
Hmm.
um, it's been a great revealing for me these 26 years with Him. But I'm happy that you have invited me and allowed me to come on your show. This has been amazing. I've watched a lot of the episodes, and some of the women all the women that have been on here have been so impactful. I'm like, wow. There's so many women that have so many awesome stories, and leading into that to say that my story is a story of what I call the invisible wounds. But what makes my
Hmm.
story so powerful is that it's so common. My story is a very common story that many have, as some of the women that I have heard on your show. And so I am so happy to see that you are allowing all of us to have a voice and on your show that we can possibly reach someone else that have the same story and to know that they're not alone. So with that being said, as I said, I call myself, or I say my story is one of the invisible wounds because I went through a lot of emotional trauma. I
Hmm.
grew up in a home of it was very volatile all the time, very um it was it was so vulnerable all the time. Um, our laughters didn't last very long, but our sadness would have long droughts. It would be a long time of sadness, and that was because my house was full of a lot of violence, a
Mm,
lot of verbal violence. And for me, I did not get physically abused, but I watched that amongst my brothers and um, my mother, and it impacted me. And it impacted me to the point to where I did not realize that it impacted me until after I became a mother. But we'll get to that. To say that um, me not having any visible signs, it was very hard for anyone to know what I was going through. I could realize that around the age of 9, when I started to struggle with anxiety and depression, and I didn't have any language to share that or speak that. And at the time where I was growing up, our parents, that generation really didn't have the language, the tools to even deal with it, to be honest. And I understand that my parents gave me the best that they could and all that they could. And it also helped me be who I am today. So I'm not here to blame
mhm,
shame anyone, but I am
mhm,
here to most definitely bring awareness that there's a lot of adults just like me that are
mhm,
walking around that have witnessed some things that they have not been able to put words to, or
mhm,
to be able to ask for help because they think that, oh no, this I just need to be strong because
mhm,
this was my story. I just need to be strong. um, One of the things that really impacted me when I was a child that lasted had one of the most lasting effects on me was I watched my mother get thrown off a roof of a car from her
mhm,
abuser. And my brothers and I stood on our front porch and we watched her hanging for her life on the roof, the hood of the car, as her abuser just kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it was happening so fast, but in my mind, it was slowing down. And it was like I was freezing and terrified all as it was
mhm.
happening. Um, when he put on brakes, she went flying off, rolling in the street.
Jesus.
And my brothers and I were just standing there, just in silence. When she got up, when she got up, she walked out the street, crossed our front yard, walked up to us standing on the front porch. She said, "You guys need to come in and go to bed." She didn't have a tear on her. She didn't raise her voice. She was bleeding, scarred, and we saw the white tissue all from her arms down. And she said nothing of what just happened.
Mhm,
She just walked past us. And we looked and we walked in and we went to bed. And we never heard her say anything else about it.
mm,
Fast forwarding, I used to replay that incident over
mhm,
and over and over and over in my mind.
mhm,
And my house, as I said, it was so volatile. It was so many things happening all at the same time and all the time that I couldn't stay focused in school. I couldn't. I couldn't really have a lot of friends because, of course, I couldn't invite friends over because
right.
there might be a fight at night,
Yeah.
right? And that made me feel very insecure. And so the being the witness of watching domestic violence affected me and others, that as I have gained to know that
Mhm,
it affected us in so many ways that we couldn't put words to it. But how it showed up, this is how it showed up. I found my life starting to mirror what I grew up in. I was
mm,
drawn to many, many emotionally shut off men. I found myself to where my house just, like I said, it fell apart. Um, my mother, she was trying to do her best to make sure that we kept a roof over our head. And she made the decision to leave that relationship. And when she left that relationship, things really didn't go as I'm sure that she planned it. I found
Okay.
myself at 16 being homeless. And then I found
Mhm.
myself dropping out of high school. I found myself from that point on just kind of roaming around trying to find this place of safety and
Mhm.
relationship. Well, I end up becoming involved with this wonderful young man, but unbeknownst to him and myself, shortly after just us taking a stroll one day, a stroll from
Mhm.
the store, we had a group of guys pull up on the side of us and they just started shooting for no reason.
Oh my
And he
Lord.
was shot for 5 times. 5 times he was shot and he died. Now that's at the age of 16. What am I saying, Shalimar? I found myself having cycles and patterns of trauma. I
Mhm.
found myself constantly having cycles and patterns and trauma. And I believe that part of it was because since I was so used to it, I was being drawn to it too, also.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and when I got married at a young age. I had my first child at 19 with my husband. We got married at 21. We have 5 children now, but during the early duration of our marriage, that's when the trauma really started to surface. Oh, I was able to hide it as I was younger, as long as I
Mhm.
kept moving, long as I kept finding a new social group of friends to hang around with, as long
Mhm.
as I kept, partying and going out and doing all those things, it was okay. I was able to manage it. And
Mhm.
of course, I had, but how it showed up, I cried a lot.
Okay.
That was my outlet. I cried a lot. And what I used to hear people say is, you such a crybaby. Why are you crying
Mhm.
so much? No one knew that that was a trauma response.
Right.
It was and I understand that, but it was a
Mhm.
trauma response. And after I got married and after I had our first 2 children, I just ended up feeling like I was having a breakdown.
Mhm.
Fear was manifesting so strongly inside of me and outside of me that I was like finding myself literally saying, okay, I'm going to avoid going outside today because something may happen. That was my train of thought.
Mhm.
And so I would ride to the store with my husband and I would like literally end up having a panic attack because he left me in the car to go pay for the gas. So it went from that to progressing to where I wasn't going outside anymore. I'm like, I'm
Mhm.
not going outside. Something's going to happen out there. I got my babies now. And he really wasn't really paying too much attention because he's just like, okay, you just need to rest. You're a new mommy.
Right.
Everything you're gonna be, everything's gonna be okay. And I'm just having this breakdown.
Right.
I'm feeling like I'm going to lose my mind. Now, granted,
Mhm.
I want to let you know that I didn't grow up in the church, so I didn't know that I can call on Jesus. I
Mhm.
didn't grow up in the church. I grew up to fifths, gallons, ounces of weed ministering in that household that I was in.
Right.
Those was the ministers that was on deck. And so I did not know the Lord. My husband, he grew up in the church and he used to just be like, Reva, pray. And I used to say, well, pray to who? Who am I praying
Mhm.
to? And he's like, I gotta go to work. Baby, you'll be all right. Just get some rest. Just get some rest. Well, one night as I was sitting up waiting on him, um, I'm sitting there crying, saying, I feel like I'm just losing my mind. And I didn't know what to do. I'm losing my mind.
Mhm.
And I happened to look back up at the TV and Bishop Bronner was on ministering. And it was a live broadcast like at 11 or 12 o'clock midnight. And I remember I'm just shaking and crying. And I just was having this. breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
And he began to minister to me and say that somebody is watching this right now, and you are literally feeling like you're having a breakdown, and you're not having a breakdown. He's literally right there with you. And I'm like crying. Of course, I went, what did he just say? I went, what did he just say? And he began to even more speak very prophetically, like you're sitting on the floor, you just had babies.
Mm.
This, like, I know you don't know him, but he wants you to experience him tonight.
Jesus.
And he said, in about 5 seconds, you're going to feel a presence because Jesus himself is coming in to embrace you. And before I knew it, I felt this presence just like over my head.
Mm. He
I
sent
felt
his
this,
peace. Oh,
yes,
Jesus.
I felt this presence over my head. And I just began to weep. My crying went from frantic panicking to
Mm-hmm.
weeping in release. It was a
Mm-hmm.
different type of cry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm I'm probably rushing through this story because
It
I don't
doesn't feel like it.
you okay. But so I had that experience, and I'm like being introduced to Christ himself, someone that did not know him.
He got you when you were broken, girl.
He,
That's when he. Oh. Oh.
yes. And so, what is one of the scriptures that are like so dear to me is that God is close to the brokenhearted, and I'm a living testimony of
Mm.
that. I'm a living testimony of that. He is close to the brokenhearted. And that night
Mm-hmm.
he was there, he was present. I was able to identify him. I knew that he was there. He was speaking to me. I knew something was happening. There was most
Mm-hmm.
definitely a transformation that was happening to me. And that morning, when I got up, and my husband's like, "We need to go to the store," so we get up and go to the store. And I'm walking out, and I'm like, "Is the sun shining brighter today?" And he looked at me like,
Wow.
"It's shining just as as bright as it was yesterday."
Girl.
And I knew something had changed, and so immediately I just went through the whole. I'm like, okay, I guess I need to find a
Mm-hmm.
church. We had telephone books back then, y'all. Telephone,
Yeah.
but
White pages, yellow pages.
yellow. So I started looking for a church, found a good foundational church. But I just wanted to, I want to backtrack a little bit. I spoke on a few situations, but my life was really seemed like I just always was encountering some kind of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Something I was always in a place to where I'm about to lose my life, or someone's trying to take my life,
Mm-hmm.
or something is trying to harm me. And it just seemed like it was just continuous, 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 continuous. After I found Christ in my life, and I realized that not only with Christ, but I needed therapy, I found a great counselor.
That's
And
cute. That's
and it
good. I'm
was
sorry to cut you off,
no
but
problem.
those of you who are watching, there is a few things that she just said in a matter of a couple of words. One of the things was that I hear is that she recognized that there needed to be a change. And in the moment that she recognized that there needed to be change, she also realized I can't do this by myself.
Mm-mm.
And yes, she was learning about God and getting help from him and understanding this whole God thing as people often talk about. But then she said, I heard it out of her mouth. I know y'all had to hear it too. She went and she needed a therapist. And unfortunately, Reva, a lot of us folk don't do the therapy. Therapy comes from grandma who is gonna tell you, baby, you ain't the only one that done ever gone
Been
on ahead and suck it up. Go cry in the bathroom, wipe your tears, put your lipstick on, fix your eyeshadow and your liner, and act like nothing happened. Or the auntie
that's
that
right.
been there, done that, and everybody goes to Meemaw and whoever else.
That's
Um,
right.
and it's not that there is anything wrong if that counsel is right,
That's right.
right? But the tradition of that isn't. So I'm glad that you did seek and you were in. So God gives us a sound mind, and we've
Mm,
got to remember that. And
mm.
I'm grateful that your mind was clear so that you could think and realize there's more to this process. And then you desired it. You wanted to change.
Yes, I knew that there was things that I couldn't put language to, that I knew I wanted it to stop.
Hmm.
And uh, I knew that the journey that I was on was so different from my nucleus family. I had a lot of people tell me, you're crazy. I'm going, so I won't go crazy. But
Hmm.
since this was that was what therapy was labeled as. You're crazy.
Hmm.
You going crazy, and I'm like, well, I'm going to be crazy because I just really wanted change. A little backdrop that I want to also mention is that what I found out was that I was going through generational trauma because my
Hmm.
mother was kidnapped when she was a child, and she did not find her parents until she was in her late 20s. So my mother walked around life feeling as if she never had a place to belong. She felt abandoned and she was a orphan. Well, the same thing was trying to happen to me even though I had parents.
Hmm.
And I was determined that I wanted to understand what was happening, one, to me and what happened to my mother so that it would not happen to my children. And I knew that I had to unlearn some things, and I needed some help learning what I needed to learn. I'm just this girl from the street, and so I had a whole lot of hood in me that was just like getting me in trouble. I couldn't hold a job. I was fighting all the time when I did get a job, and then when I was at home, I'm angry and full of rage, which was also a curse that was passed down through my bloodline. I lost my two brothers due to this diabolical um, dysfunction of how we was brought up to live, and I was determined. So when I got therapy and when I went to therapy, Shalimar, the first time I went to therapy, I'm telling her all these things that I was experiencing, and she stopped me and said, Reva, I really want you to be honest with me. Is your husband abusing you? Are you in a physically abusive relationship?
Hmm.
I said, no, ma'am.
Hmm.
No, why you say that? She said, you have all the signs of physical abuse. So let me just dive in and start sharing with you. You've been emotionally abused, verbally abused. You've been through this trauma. You lived through this trauma in this household. And you're displaying as you have been physically abused. That in that moment,
Hmm.
it helped me understand that this is why no one really knew what and why I acted the way I did, because I had showed no physical wounds. I walked around with
Hmm.
the invisible wounds, the
Oh, that's
invisible pain.
good right there. It's not, I'm not saying good that you experienced it, but I
Oh,
hope y'all heard her. The invisible wounds. My God.
the invisible wounds. And I used to get all the time people saying, why are you crying? Why don't you just, girl, just suck it up? What's wrong with you now? I didn't know. I couldn't say
Hmm.
because growing up, kind of rough, and you see parents or couples fighting. Fighting was the quote
Normal.
unquote norm.
Yeah. And it was so far from it, but it was like if you had peace, it was something wrong. Like, what's wrong with
Exactly.
y'all over there? Y'all
Right.
good?
Y'all
Yeah.
ain't like, yeah. So, and then just going through the struggles of relationships and being in places where there's always eruption and violence and things like that. That was supposed to be the girl. Look, girl, get up, girl. You good? Like I couldn't shake it. I couldn't
Mhm.
shake these things. These things affected me. It changed the way I thought. I found myself getting up every morning anticipating, like, okay, now, so if this happened, I'm gonna do this. If this happened, that's how my day started off. I just was just
Mhm.
straight out the gate, like, okay, let me figure out if this happened, if something happened, I'm gonna do. I mean, I'm just like in this fear fantasy state of mind because I'm anticipating something's gonna happen because something's been always happening.
Right.
And so, um, y'all, I made it. I
You
made
did.
I
She made it.
made it
Oh,
um
Lord.
with a lot of work. I dedicated my life,
Thank
and
you, Jesus.
I hope that someone will hear this. I made my mind up that I will for the rest of my life pursue wholeness.
Mm,
So for me, what does that mean? That means that there's never a moment that I say that I've arrived. Am I healed? Absolutely. But do I pursue more and make sure I maintain my wholeness? Absolutely. And there may be times where I just need to sometimes take a season out to just do a check, make sure everything is okay. And if everything, because life affects us. And
mhm,
just because I overcame what I went through in my early adulthood, in my childhood, life still happens. And I don't I don't allow shame to cloak me because I'm like, well, I'm healed. I'm okay. I'm supposed to be going through that. No, I let life happen and I take my steps of what I need to do to work through it. And if I can't work through it, guess what? I enlist help.
mm,
That help may look in the form of prayer and deliverance. They
mhm,
help may look in the form of community or therapist. And a lot of my deliverance came by a way of just changing my thought,
mhm,
making new decisions. And how did I learn that? By unlearning some of my ways. And that took a while. And I'm still on that journey. So I want to let someone know, because I know that there's someone that's listening that probably feel and beat up on themselves like, why I'm not over this yet? Why
mhm,
I'm not over this yet? Well, what I would say to you is that it takes a journey. It takes your life to be dedicated to your wholeness. And I don't want you to feel beat up on yourself that you feel that you may have not arrived at some point. You are on your journey of healing. You are healing, and there's no time, it's no destination. Wholeness is a lifestyle, it's a way of living, it's a way of thinking. It's not a destination. So
mm,
I hope that I can encourage someone that we sometimes we expect that we're supposed to be over something sooner than we should, or we should get over things a lot quicker. And no, some things take time. The Heavenly Father is a gentle Father. He deals with us in layers. There was times in my life that I dealt with certain things back to back, and I'm like, God, I'm tired, come on, when we go, like, I just, and guess what he would do? He would give me a break, and I
mhm,
will go 6 months to a year not really digging deep. And then he'll come back to me and say, daughter, it's time. I need you to deal with this. And then I will be
mhm,
back on my journey of dealing with whatever it is. And um, I want to just continue to encourage someone, do not beat up on yourself. Don't put a time limit on things, because at the at the end of the day, God so wants you to be whole
mhm,
and healed, that he's
mhm.
going to be gentle with you. If he unveiled all the wounded areas of our soul at one time, we wouldn't be able to
Oh,
handle it
we
anyway.
couldn't. Mm-mm.
We
I
wouldn't be
know
able
I
to
couldn't.
handle it.
Just being honest. You're right.
you know,
You are absolutely right.
healing is a journey. It's not a
Mhm,
destination. It's a pace of a it's a development of a lifestyle, a
mhm.
new way of living, thinking.
And if I can say this there, we can't compare ourselves to others. Even
Absolutely.
if you and I had a very almost to the point where it's the exact story, I can't be like, well, how she got past this and I'm still because don't compare.
Absolutely.
Allow him to do what he does the way that she's saying. Reva made a really good point. There's layers to this thing. There's steps to this. There's a process. And everybody's process isn't the same. Even like in school, every kid don't learn the same. You could teach the same lesson and everyone doesn't get it because
Yeah.
everybody's process of learning is different.
Yeah.
Everybody's process of healing is different. Um, I don't want to stop where you're at, Reva. I want to keep going. Well, actually, we don't have to stop completely. There
Okay.
is after the show behind the scenes. So those of you who are watching, if you want to hear more from Reva about her journey, you've got to tune in at 4 o'clock, excuse me, Eastern Standard Time today on YouTube. Look for Girl Embrace It TV, and you will find after the show behind the scenes, and you will be able to listen a little bit more to Reva talk about her journey and her story. Now, like I said, I hate to kind of move from there, but we didn't talk about your podcast much. And I know you do have your podcast, but before we even go there, how would a person find you if they needed you? They wanted to gather more information about you. What's
Absolutely.
your website or email address? How would you want people to find you?
Absolutely. At this time, I am revamping my coaching offerings, but
Hmm.
I can always be contacted for one-on-ones. My website is www.revahart.com. I can be emailed at reva@revahart.com. I am on Instagram and Facebook at Reva Hart. I'm not much on Twitter, but I most definitely am open to speak to anyone that reaches out to me. Um, we can customize any kind of conversation along around what the person is going through. So again, I am revamping my coaching offerings so they're not present on the website, but I do have some things about myself and my podcast on there. And I would love to hear from anybody. I am an open book, and I know that this is my call is to help the broken, wounded woman. If that's just being a listening ear, or if that's being a present prayer partner in a season, or a mentor, I am available. I am
All
available.
right. Well, I got her stuff up there, y'all. Just in case you wanted to know how to spell it all, there it is, Reva Hart. You can get her at revahart.com, www.revahart.com. Instagram and Facebook is at Reva Hart. It is all there, so write it down, screenshot it, take a picture of the TV screen, do whatever you got to do so that you can stay connected. Now, the podcast. Just talk to us a little bit about that, what you do, how it came about, if you can do that in about 2 minutes.
I, I can give you 30
Then we'll
seconds.
talk more. All right, that'll work. We'll talk more about it after the show. But yes, please, the podcast.
Girlfriend, let's talk with Reva Hart. It's a platform that I am offering to women to come on and share their story, a place that they can have a voice, share their a roadmap of success, so that other women can be successful and have hope. So, girlfriend, let's talk. We talk about everything: comparison, healing, adultery, mommy aches, the woes of being single. We have talked about many things, and so it's just a space for women to have a voice and have a place that they can be transparent and share their story. And
That's
we are
so
on all podcast outlets.
okay. I like it. I like it a lot.
Thank you. I
You're
appreciate you,
welcome.
Shalimar. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, you're welcome. I appreciate you. I, I feel like I am, this is redundant, but it's so real because God told me that every woman that comes on this show will have a story to tell. And I feel like I say this almost every episode, every segment, every show, but it's just so true. I don't know the story until the story is told, and I find out the day of the show. And everybody has a story. I could tell you about the story when I broke my fingernail. I got a story to tell, you know, but he was specific in saying that these stories are going to show my hand so greatly and will be a testament to who he is. And I have not been failed. Not that I thought he would, but sometimes you thinking, okay, am I sure I heard you, Lord? Yeah, just making sure this was really you. This not me. And girl, you are.
Oh,
And I'm gonna leave that there. Um, your strength and your perseverance, your drive is remarkable.
thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody, everybody that is watching can take from this.
Yes,
Even if you've not experienced trauma to the level or the extent that she did, or trauma at all, what you would consider to be trauma, there is still something you can get from her.
absolutely.
Because if there was a point in time, I'm just thinking, where it became difficult for you, whatever the difficulty is in your world. Some
Hmm.
people might feel that it's difficult to not pass the SATs. That's about the worst thing that could ever happen. I didn't get a good score. Others may be like, man, it's just difficult living day to day. Whatever
Absolutely.
your difficulty is, can you just sit back and say, man, that woman right there made it? She said it herself. She made it.
I made it from a
There is
ninth
no
grade
excuse.
high school dropout.
I was gonna get there too. The time, Lord, we don't never have after the show, behind the scenes. My goodness. I'm gonna have to cut some stuff out, y'all. We just gonna fade on and fade out, and I'll put it on after the show because it's just we're over. And I'm just being just as real as real can be.
Sorry.
But I was saying, it's there's no excuse that is excusable. I'm sorry. You know, I get that there are reasons to everything. This is why this has happened. This is where I was. This is the place that I was in life. And that I'm not saying there's no excuse to negate the fact that there are excuses and reasons. But to sit back and use that as your excuse for not persevering, for not pushing, for not pressing, for not getting past something, man, come on now. There's no I can't fathom. And I'm not trying to say I'm perfect and great, or anyone else is,
Right.
but man, like, really? Think about it. Why are you complaining? What are you complaining about? Okay, it's hard. Get around the hard piece. Sit back and search. Find another route. Go
There,
about things a different way.
there you
Ask God, well, is it hard because I'm going in the wrong direction in the first place? Should I even be trying?
right. That
You
right.
know, is this not my path?
That's
And then I heard you talk about what your profession is, right?
right. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know you dropped out of high school until you
Ninth,
told me you dropped out of high school. And immediately when you said that, I wanted to say something at that time, but the Lord said, let her finish. I got a purple pen right here and I want to be like, girl, you speak to me. Uh, but if you have dropped out of high school for whatever the reason, or you made it all the way through, but you just couldn't pass, she is a who? A what? What do you do?
I'm a director of operations for a clinical laboratory. I
That
over
don't already sound amazing.
I over I deal with the blood.
The blood. Look at you, Reva. You try to start something. You trying to get the blood.
I deal
Okay,
with the
y'all. Let's go.
blood.
Tune in. She done started talking about the blood. We got to move on. Tune in to after the show, behind the scenes on YouTube. Reva,
Yes, ma'am.
I am so grateful. I am eternally grateful for you, your story, your transparency, your openness, your advice. Um,
Thank you.
you uncovered yourself today for somebody, including me. And I honor you today
Thank you. I honor you
as
too.
a foundational woman
Mm,
because you are. And if you didn't think you did, I'm telling you now, you done laid some stuff for some people
amen.
today.
To God be the glory.
To God be the glory. But I'm grateful. I'm glad you didn't hold on to it. I'm glad you're not being stingy with your testimony. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to say thank you for those who wish that they could tell you thank you themselves, but they can't reach and touch you right now. But if you all go to where I put all her information, you can send her a thank you message. But I say thank you even for that person to you on today. So, guys, I'm going to end it here so that we can move on. But again, as I say all the time at the end of the show, your scars, those things that you deal with, those its in your life, those moments in time that makes things hard or to seem impossible, but we know through God all things are possible. Those scars, they're beautiful. Why? Because they're your testimony. To God be the glory. Until next time, please join us next Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Preach the Word Worldwide Network for Shalimar Day. What day is that? SatHERday's. SatHERday's with Shalimar J. You all have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.
Have a good night.